How how are you this morning? Oops, muted you unintentionally. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Chris, you are an exceptional, I think, person. Well, an extraordinary person. How about that? And
You.
just, I love what you do. I love what you bring. I love your spirit of care, your spirit of inclusivity, and there's a shyness about you that also makes it extremely innocent and beautiful. And when you speak, I think everyone listens, and that's kind of scary too. Um, tell, tell everybody a little bit about your kind of your background, who you are, where you come from, and so we can kind of listen.
Well, I'm from Martinsville, Virginia. I lived there my entire life until I moved up here by 2009 for school. I went to the University of Lynchburg at the time when it was Lynchburg College. I graduated from there 2013, and I've been working as a music teacher ever since.
Now, Chris, the yeah, the music teacher part. Tell us what music has played in your life. Like, where did that come from? How does that, what has that been for you as you've been growing up?
Well, my mom used to sing a song to me every night before I went to bed. Um, I called it the Rainbow Song, but it's from Sesame Street. I can't remember exactly where it comes from. But yeah, it all started with my mom and how she used to sing to me every night. And I've always wanted to sing. I've always wanted to like entertain people. I just knew since middle school and high school that I wanted to do music for the rest of my life.
And Chris, you've got an amazing, wonderful voice filled with emotion and an authenticity that is certainly, I think, for anyone listening, automatically pulls them in. Um, Now, and I'm going to ask you to sing, and it's not for entertainment for us, everyone. I'm actually put the words. I love this song. Chris actually introduced me to the song. Many of us that were attending Refuge earlier this year, and Chris sang or had us sing with him, I believe, the song, and it was so beautiful. It's by Joshua Campbell. Let me. I'm going to put the words up so people can see it, and I'm going to ask Chris to sing it. And Joshua Campbell wrote this. He's a quite prolific, amazing vocal artist as well. And let me just let me share the words though. Yeah, I'll get that on here. And I actually have the GoFundMe for this song. It's Sing Out, March On. So I'm inviting people to not only participate as Chris leads us in the song, but to actually go on to Joshua Campbell's site and contribute. This is just an amazing. It's sung in a cappella form, and Chris led us at Refuge, and I know he's done it at First Christian, and it's just, this is powerful stuff. Chris, would you mind? He agreed earlier, so I'm hoping he's still okay with it. Chris,
Yeah, it's fine.
do you mind singing this for us? And I'm going to mute myself so I can kind of sing along, especially on the I'm going to sing out, I'm going to march on. And I invite everyone to sing with Chris where you're at. It's meant to be done eventually collectively. So let's give Chris on mute though, and allow him to lead us in that. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah. Well, I marched through the storm and I marched through the rain, and I marched through some sickness and some heartache and pain. And I laid on the ground and I looked up at the sky, and I prayed to the Lord up above and asked why. But oh no, I'm not tired, I'm not through marching yet. And I'm on till I die, oh children, this you can bear. I'm gonna sing out, I'm gonna march on. I'm gonna sing out, I'm gonna march on. Well, my granddaddy marched and my grandmama too. And I never thought it'd be something that I have to do. But I'll march if I must. I'm on a mission, you see, and I'll be damned if my children have to march for me. Now I believe in the power of raising my voice, and I believe in the power of making some noise. If I die, I can sing, and if I can't sing, I'll die. So we'll sing for one another. Now let's give it a try. I'm gonna sing out. I'm gonna march on. I'm gonna sing out. I'm gonna march on.
Thank you so much, Chris.
You.
Wow. You know, Chris, I think the power of your story resides in who you are, um and it's not always easy to just share. You know, I mean, it's not like we carry our stories written out, expressed perfectly for others to see and know exactly how we feel or who we are and what we're about. But if you were to, I think, summarize how you want people to see you, and I know that's a deep question and that may not be easy to answer, but take a moment if you can. And how do you want people to see you when they see you?
Um, for me, I think the best way to put it would be to see that I am a softly outspoken, very strong person. Because I've noticed that during times when I bring up things that are like the Black Lives Matter movement or how trans women are dying and how Black women have a higher rate of dying in birth, giving birth, people see me as claiming to be a victim, and I'm saying no. I'm claiming that there's a problem in our world and there's a problem in America, and it's up to everyone to fix it. Um, and ignoring those issues and just focusing on the good does nothing, because that evil is still out there, and we have to do something about it.
When you're calling out the pain and the problems, like even with the pandemic, right? I mean, communities of color, and then when you compound people of color into the queer community, and then you were kind of narrowing it down to trans folks, and I mean, there are so many communities that are affected. What do you think we as a society could be doing to really, really address those issues and stop maybe just kind of focusing on self rather than helping our communities that are vulnerable be safe?
It's time that we educate ourselves and educate each other, and to actually actively listen to people, especially like we all like are members of churches that are on Rivermont Avenue, and most of these churches are very social justice set. But it's time for us to like remove ourselves from those four walls, and which is really hard in the pandemic. But we have to remove ourselves from those four walls of our church and go out into the community and be active and to be outspoken and to have those difficult conversations.
If you had one kind of wish for I totally see what you're saying about getting out of not only our four walls, but even kind of our institutions of power, like our positions of power and privilege. I think people enjoy the power that comes with being in their areas or their geographical areas or their structures. What going outside, what would be your one wish if people were to remove themselves or come down from their kind of positions of comfort and to come out and be and really suffer alongside, I believe, very much like Jesus commended everyone to do, was to honestly be with the most marginalized, and being not just being as in like I'm here, but really present with one another, suffering together. What would be kind of your wish list of things that you would like to see once people come out and they're really willing to be present with those who are marginalized? What is kind of that next step? Because there's another step there, right? It's there's another step beyond just being present. There's something I think that majority culture, especially, I think, yeah, when I say majority culture, typically meaning white, or white identified or white privileged, but also there's the hetero pieces to that too. There's kind of this heteronormative majority culture mainstream that also reaps benefits within that. What would we say to them if they're all coming, if we're coming down and we're being with the people and we're really trying to working for equitability? What's kind of that next step? What's that one more piece?
I think the next step would be getting out into community, more community service, go to a church that's different than yours and talk to those people. Um, just reaching out to someone that's different than you will help start that conversation.
Yeah, I think one of the issues that I kind of get from folks, and that's not saying the folks that are on this call, but I think in general, some of the things that people have kind of approached me with is Dan, I don't really have friends in these other communities. And there's no doubt in Lynchburg, there's a segregation. I mean, there's definitely, and I'm sure in Martinsville it's the same way. You find these borders, these fences, these walls that are kind of built all around these different communities, and it's not necessarily, these insulation. The insulation there is probably for protection, no doubt about some of that, but some of it's just done because certain people want to feel comfortable, and so they kind of cordon other groups away from them. And I think what you're challenging us to do is to honestly break that down,
Totally.
honestly tear that stuff away, and become real with each other.
Completely.
How do you think we can do that? I mean, you've been here, you teach in Amherst County, you taught in Nelson. I mean, you've been in some places where this is kind of endemic, right? It's all over. What could we do? And you mentioned one was going to a church that's not like yours, which is this invitation of, why do you always have to be in your own little group, right? A
Right.
comfortable group. Step out of that.
Yeah, and that's a very difficult question to answer just by myself. But it's time to now like have those conversations with each other about how can we do that, because like one person can't do it by themselves. It has to be a team effort. It has to be a community effort, um, to break those boundaries.
Yeah, right. And we've got to be telling each other to do it, right? We got to
Right.
almost push each other.
And to encourage each other. And it's really hard to make change happen. And
Mm.
people are way too comfortable with what they have because they just see it in their one tunnel vision.
Mm-hmm.
But it's time for America to like grow out of its clothes and put on some new clothes and to make it a better place.
Now, tell us, Chris, where you feel comfortable, but I'd love to hear more of your story, because you embody that spirit. I mean, you've crossed into different circles. You've worked in so many different groups that really you yourself probably don't completely identify. And you've done that. You've broken into these other circles, and you somehow made them feel comfortable. And I'm really interested in more your story personally, because I think you've done a lot of sacrificing on your end, and I don't know how much sacrifice is going out on the other end, for you, like people really trying to reach into who you are and be and to know you. And I was wondering if you could kind of walk us through a little bit. You gave us a little taste. You told us where you're from. You did say you came to school here, and I think those were probably formative years for you.
Yeah.
Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about that. Tell us more about you. How did you feel coming to Lynchburg as a person of color? I don't even know. And there's layers to that you could talk about if you want to, which I think are quite interesting. The racial dynamics, but also, and then you throw sexuality into that. I mean, there's all sorts of pieces, and then you put your faith into it, and it just gets more and more. For some people, it's a lot, and I think you're just an amazing person to have kind of come into your own, and during all of those times of having to, again, I think sacrifice a bit of yourself in order to accommodate other people's feelings or whatever comfort levels. How was that? Tell us a little bit about that.
Um, well, I didn't know like Lynchburg College existed. I only knew about Liberty University, and I just knew deep down inside that I wasn't going to go there. So I go across the street to Lynchburg College. Uh, Hold on. Sorry, my family's behind me. um, so I I didn't really come out of the closet until college. Um, I never really actually walked out the closet myself. People forced me out the closet. My sister forced me out the closet. People that were I was in choir with at Lynchburg College forced me out the closet. So I really never got that everyone wants that happy gay story of prancing out the closet. I was just kind of pushed out, which I mean I'm fine with. Now people know. People don't really think about it. The only people that think about it are like people I work with or people that that meet me and like, who are you and what are you? But yeah, just working in the education system where it's majority white people, um, and then having to police their words because they've said some pretty interesting things to me, and not thinking like these educated people are going to say some rude racist things to me, and then those same people through Black Lives Matter, like after it's all happening now, they refuse to see the problems of the world. And then, like, where I work, we are planning on tackling those issues. We plan on teaching our children about racism and how to fight against it and how to be anti-racist. But it's going to be a very interesting ride where teachers just truly don't believe that it exists. And like, what are they going to do about that? And then what am I going to say to these people um, in the workspace outside of Facebook? But I have grown to be just a different person in these spaces. Like, I put on a different face. I talk differently. I dress differently. My hair is not this big puff ball on top of my head. um, but having to be a different person in each different circle is exhausting. And that's what happens right now.
Do you wish it didn't have to be that way?
Right. I really do. Because you shouldn't treat me differently if my hair is in a bun or if my hair is down. You shouldn't treat me differently if I'm in different clothes. Or I shouldn't be a threat to you. I shouldn't be dangerous to you just the way I look or just the way I talk or just the way anyone talks and looks.
Yeah, I think that's what strikes me about you is you're so. I feel that comfort level you have in yourself, but I also see that yeah, you're kind of having to fit into other people's expectations of who you have to be for them, and yeah, I think your kind of call for action that you were talking about earlier definitely challenges us to create a space where people can be themselves. And that includes you. I mean, I feel like in a way you're saying, look, I want to be free, completely free to be me 100%. And I know there's people on this particular, in our call here that know exactly what you're talking about in the sense of they want to be freely, to be able to be who they are in every context that they're in. And they don't need to conform to all the expectations that others place on them, which happen to be typically majority culture expectations. Majority culture expectations are typically the ones that become what we call normal or mainstream, and that's very unfortunate, because what that does is it begins to marginalize people immediately who don't fit into that culture, don't fit into that specific set background and expectation. So that's, yeah, we've got to change it. I think what you were saying to us earlier was, go out, leave your leave your ivory towers, leave your structures, leave your place, and go out and be with those who are really hurting, those who are being marginalized. And Chris, you are beautifully gifted and able to express things I think that many of us wish we could express a little bit better. And I appreciate what you're doing about getting out in front of this and challenging us. And I think we want to be in a position of listening, really listening, and I mean that really, like, authentically listening for change. Like, we want to experience transformation, because to know that we're creating this world where there's intolerance, and most of us on this call are extremely, you would think tolerant or progressive or liberal, but yet at the same time we can be at times still expecting others to bend our way, to come into our space and do things a certain way. So you're challenging us, Chris Badgett.
Thank you.
And that's what we need. We need that. We need a challenge. And I think there's an argument here that it's not your responsibility to challenge us. Do you ever get exhausted with having to, like, educate?
I really do get exhausted. I get exhausted because when I do speak to people, they don't listen. But if my white friend says the exact same words to these people, they listen more, which is kind of just strange to me, because it's the exact same words, it's the exact same story. But because I'm viewed differently, they don't want to listen. They think I'm claiming to be the victim, or I'm claiming to be a sad case for you to be sad about. I'm like, no, don't be sad about me. Just listen to the story that I have and do something about it.
Wow, that's a powerful, I think, epiphany for many of us, to try to see how the responsibility is on ourselves to make sure that we're listening, that we're changing, that we're transforming. There's no doubt about that, but that we're not taking seriously the words, the cries, the pain, the stories of those who are living these experiences. Is what a tragedy in and of itself that becomes. And I think that we need to, I'm just kind of processing this myself right now, because I realize that I'm not listening like I need to be listening, and I'm not acting like I need to be acting myself. And that's so your challenge is out for me too. I think it's for all of us, but I definitely feel it personally, Chris. And I want to commit to you that and I'm sure many on this group here will want to commit, but we want to commit, I think many of us, to change, to truly change, and to be willing to sacrifice on a level, at least, if not more, on the level you've already been sacrificing over and over and over. And to be uncomfortable, and to have to change the culture around us by speaking out. You're calling out the prophet. You're kind of saying, be the prophet. You're not going to be popular, but you've got to be the voice crying out in the wilderness. We can see you, Genevieve. Can you hear me when I'm out here? You're on mute, so I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm talking to someone else. Genevieve, who's on here? She's in another room, but for briefly not. Anyway, we're going to change the culture around us by not being silent anymore. And we've got to put ourselves out on the line. We've got to be uncomfortable. We've got to be willing to sacrifice as well. And so, Chris, does that kind of summarize some of the challenge?
Yes, that's great. That was greatly said. Thank you.
I want to rise to it. I don't want it to end here, and Chris, we invite you to continue to engage in conversations only and if and when you want to, not because we need it. And that's not fair to you. You're not here to be our entertainer. You're not here to be our, we're not here to objectify you. It's got to be from our side. And thank you so much for being willing, brother. Thank you so much for being willing to deal with us, loving on us by being honest with us. That's the greatest gift we could ever ask for. Thank you,
Thank
Chris
you.
Badgett. Any final words, Chris Badgett?
I would love for everyone to follow Refuge on Facebook, and if you scroll through, there'll be a podcast with myself and with Jesse interviewing me, and there's also a podcast with our friend Tyler there, and Jesse just popped the Facebook link in the chat.
Thank you, Jesse. Yeah, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
All right, so what we'll do is